Okay. So Mike, why did you choose to start going to school at BYU?
I chose BYU for graduate school because, frankly, it was the best school I got into that was affordable. I got into London School of Economics, and I got into Washington State University and BYU, and then I got rejected from 4 schools. So I decided BYU because it was my number 2 choice, but it was also the number 1 choice in terms of cost and in terms of location.
Okay. And what did you kind of feel? What was, in your opinion, what was the culture of BYU?
When I first got there, I was a little bit surprised because I've never, I went to BYU Idaho for my undergraduate, so I kind of knew what I was getting into in terms of like a religious school, but I never lived in Utah, and I wasn't really used to the Utah mentality and the Utah way of living because I'm from a different state. And once I got there, I thought, oh, this is very different. You know, everyone's LDS. You know, all the opinions are 100% LDS, and that was a bit of a shock at first.
Okay. So with that, why did you decide to then go to UVU or even to apply for UVU?
Well, I worked for UVU. I have taken a couple classes there, but I already, of course, have a graduate degree. But I lived in the area. I was going to school at BYU, and it just made sense to try to get a job there and to try to do things there. I think UVU is a great institution. You know, I love working for them, and I think that the student experience is really interesting and unique. As far as being a teacher, one of the things I really like about UVU is that I can say whatever I want, and I'm not really scared. When I was a TA at BYU, I had an instructor who that I TA'd for, who this particular person, she kind of had difficulty dealing with, you know, what decisions about what kinds of content to share with the students, and we would have conversations occasionally about it. You know, she didn't want to say or do certain things that she felt like the students would be offended by, and that's never been a concern for me. And granted, I think, you know, it should be a concern every once in a while, like content for student issues, but at the same time, it's never had to be a consideration for me at UVU.
Okay. So you've kind of answered my next couple questions here, but what do you feel is then the culture of UVU as opposed, because you kind of said BYU is more of a religious school. What would you say it is at UVU?
Well, there's still an element of the BYU culture that exists at UVU because so many of the employees and so many of the students are LDS. That's my son trying to say. He turned the light off. There is definitely an element of the same types of culture at UVU as at BYU with the Mormon influence, but at the same time, it's a little different. Xander, turn the light back on, please. It's a little different. Thank you. Sorry.
It's okay.
Don't keep doing that, son. But I do think there is a lot of free thinking at UVU that I really like. Whereas at BYU, I think if you challenge somebody's opinion and it happens to deal with the LDS Church, there is a bit of an intimidation factor there, and I felt that way as a student. To a certain extent, I didn't really want to challenge certain things, and it's not overtly stated. I think there is free. Xander, turn the light back on.